Have you ever noticed in your life that some people seem to have a lot of good luck and others, seem to have, well, a lot of bad? This is not your imagination, and it's really not a bad thing either, because it's just showing that your perception antennas are perhaps just a bit more sensitive than others. Hello, my name is Ernest. Welcome. And what I talk about in this series are the unfortunate consequences of ignoring one of the greatest abilities you naturally possess, perception. So, with no ado, let's dive right in. Did you know that willpower is another central element of advanced perception? It absolutely is. But the trick is its creation. Hello, folks. It's Ernest. Welcome. There is something absolutely amazing that is going on around us constantly, but few people are perceiving, let alone understanding, what it really is. Visualize a busy train station with hundreds, if not thousands of people, or huge schools of fish, or flocks of birds, all scurrying about, all with their own purpose, and question what this is. To the common observer, in the broadest terms possible, the question of what really all of this is very obvious and can be summed up in just one word: life. However, advanced perception tells us something entirely different. And now I'm going to share that with you. The absolute reality of what's going on in the previous example is never really discussed properly because the ramifications to society and all the individuals which comprise that society are absolutely huge. I'm talking about the very stark differences between two simple words: life and will. All that is living, from bacteria and single-celled organisms to the most genetically complex organisms on Earth, which certainly includes humans, exist and function via one primary attribute: will. And this in no way should ever be confused with life. Another way of describing this is that life is the action that is witnessed that a living being engages in, whereas will is the absolute force that propels it. Ergo, without will, there is no life. This is the reason a very old, well-established term exists, such as when someone says, "I don't really know why he died. The doctors said he should have pulled through. It seems he simply gave up the will to live." One of the very important reasons a person needs to recognize and actually understand the difference between the two is that although all living creatures function as a consequence of the will, humans are the only creatures on Earth that can actually alter it. What this means, in the shortest possible terms, that to a certain extent, sometimes to an incredible extent, humans can increase their will to live, and in doing that, life takes on an entirely different meaning, which of course is a very good thing. I feel it's important to note at this juncture that a person can also actually do the exact opposite. They can remove their own will and or remove the will of others. But that's a discussion for another time. But what I will tell you, if you're certain you're in the company of someone who is parasitically stealing your will, the best thing you can do is walk directly up to them and knock the living shit out of them. I'm just kidding. Just saying if you're paying attention. Basically, your will is you. All the attributes of the will can be witnessed and described by each and all of us. It is intuitive. That much is the same concerning will. But how will is obtained is completely individualistic, and as a natural consequence, has many variables. There is no cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all manner of creating will. Or, in the parlance of our times, there's no app for that. But even with the many variables, there are general rules concerning building will. But before we can discuss that, we're just getting a bit ahead of ourselves. The most important thing, in fact, the very most important thing, is you must understand the difference between life and will. Ask yourself this. Before you heard me describing all this, did you know or had you even considered what I just told you? If not, then anything else that I tried to explain beyond that point would have been pretty useless. That would be like someone telling you they need some milk, so you hand them the keys to your car and tell them that they can drive to the supermarket, and they've never driven a car in their life. So I'm making the assumption that you understand the difference between life and will. Because as I've tried to make very clear, if you don't, probably very little of what I'm about to say is going to benefit you, because it simply won't make any sense. I'm not going to specifically talk about building or rebuilding will in this episode, but this information is a vital precursor to doing that. There are many other names for will, and with using advanced perception, you will know what that is intuitively. But one of the most common and unfortunately misunderstood terms is spirit. Now, just to be clear, I'm going to say something which may sound contradictory, but I assure you it's not. Yes, spirit exists, but its meaning is not the same as when it's used in a religious context. If you ever heard someone being talked about in a conversation, and one or more people in the conversation say something such as, "I thought he was a really good boxer, even though he didn't win the fight. He came back several times. He definitely showed a lot of spirit." Your will, or spirit, is a clear indication of a certain form of vitality, but it's not the be-all and end-all of the human condition. It's not a barometer for human psychological health. My next door neighbor, being very spirited and having the police called on him several times in the past, is a clear indication of that. So if you found this interesting, want to know more, or have any questions, you can reach out to me via my website link in the description below. And if you really want to give me a compliment, telling a friend about the show would be the best compliment you could give. Thank you. Until next time, this is Ernest, and I usually, always am.